The Lagos State High Court, sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square annex Igbosere, Lagos Island, has convicted and sentenced to death by hanging a suspended Assistant Superintendent of Police ASP Drambi Vandi for the murder of Lagos-based lawyer Mrs. Omobolanle Raheem. Justice Ibironke Harrison held that the prosecution, the Lagos State government, proved the case against the convict beyond all reasonable doubt. Recall that back on January 16, the Lagos State government arraigned Vandi before the court for shooting to death the 41-year-old pregnant lawyer at the Ajah Underbridge checkpoint on December 25, 2022.
The convict faced a one-count charge of murder, contrary to Section 223 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State 2015. Let's now bring in constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst Barrister Jide Ologun. Thank you so much for taking time out to join us this morning on Breakfast Central as we talk through this recent happening.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you.
All right. So first of all, I mean, you're not just a constitutional lawyer. We're going to look at things from the aspect of that. You're also a public affairs analyst. One question I like to ask is this. How does this news, especially when it broke yesterday, how does it affect the environment, the people? And since we're talking about mental health as well, how does it affect the mental health, especially of Nigerians and police officers altogether?
Absolutely. It's a great relief to many, particularly those who are with cold feet concerning getting justice from the judiciary. And this is one of the celebrated cases in Nigeria. And again, the Nigerian Bar Association showed keen interest in the matter. And also for the generality of the citizens who have the perception of extrajudicial killings and oppression, brutality from the police. I think this is a judgment that has come to punctuate the fact that Nigeria deserves orderliness and that there are consequences, because that is very important. I should let us know that this judgment is one of the very few. I doubt if police officer has been handed over this level of judgment. So it appears that in the past, police officers have gotten away with some of these extrajudicial practices. So this is a great, and when you talk about the mental impact, the impact of mental health, those who have been traumatized by that experience. Personally, when I drive through that Ajah Bridge axis, I recall this incident, particularly that it happened on Christmas Day, a day that should be a day of joy, and that she was pregnant. So right now, I think many Nigerians will feel a sense of relief and then justice.
Justice has been served in this case, but I think another factor, like you did say, it's not common sight. It's not common to see that a police officer is being sentenced to death. And we must applaud the role that the NBA has played in ensuring that justice, is brought to Omobolanle Raheem. Let's talk about what the next steps are. Now, the judge has handed over the verdict. The man has the right of appeal. And according to Amnesty International, we have about 3,000 people who are currently on death row. So how do you see this turning out? Do you think that he would appeal this? And how long, usually, give us an insight into how long people can stay on death row before the judgment is actually executed?
As we speak, in year 2020 alone, at least 58 death sentences were pronounced in Nigeria. And if you talk about death sentence, it's allowed under Section 33 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. But how many governors have been bold enough? I think just about 2 have been signed in recent years, because when you talk about death sentences, if it is not appealed, the execution will have to be signed by the state governors. And as I mentioned earlier, I think only 2 warrants for death sentences were carried out since 1999. So you can imagine, because some of these governors we come out to feel that, oh, I don't want the blood of anyone on my neck. So you find many who have been convicted to death by hanging or otherwise, still in the correctional facility for years, waiting for the final day. But like you rightly mentioned, Vandi has a right to appeal. And at this level, the Supreme Court remains the highest court in the land since 1963 when we became a republic. And I expect that the lawyers we appeal. But let's also come up with some constitutional facts. If you look at Section 33 of our Constitution 1999 as amended, it says every person has a right to life, and no one shall be deprived intentionally of his life, save in execution of the sentence of a court in respect of a criminal offense of which he has been found guilty in Nigeria, like the case of Vandi, and we have the case of the Chief Judge of Osun State sentencing Rahman Adedoyin, owner of Hilton Hotel in Ilefe, to death by hanging over the murder of Timothy Adeboki, postgraduate student of the Ologun University, late. And again, having said that, Vandi pleaded not guilty. And according to Section 36 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, he has a right to fair hearing, because it says a person shall be entitled to a fair hearing within a reasonable time by a court or other tribunal established by law and constituted in such manner as to ensure its independence and impartiality. And we also have what we call presumption of innocence until pronounced guilty by the court. Honorable Justice Ibironke Harrison. Vandi was presumed to be innocent, but the case has been proved beyond all reasonable doubt. And if you look at Section 131 of the Evidence Act of Nigeria 2011, it says that he who alleges must prove. And in the course of this case, there was a witness who confirmed that the police pulled the trigger fast, so that he was trying to say it was true, this banger or whatever. So if he actually committed murder, then he should be liable to the penalty. Because when you look at the criminal law in Nigeria in the last 53 years, death penalty has frequently been imposed on offenses of murder and treason. And this is a strong message to other officials of the government who are expected to be accountable to the citizen. We look at Section 14 of Section 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. It stipulates that the security and the welfare of the citizen shall be the primary purpose of government. So if you are representing the citizen, the government rather, in carrying out some roles, and you are answerable to the citizens, because the same Constitution says that sovereignty belongs to the people, and it's from the people that the government gets the authority to govern. So these are all the issues. So I expect that the Nigerian police that has the vision of creating a safe environment for economic development and economic growth, we carry out this message and begin to engage the officers at the level of trainings on attitude, mindset, and ethical approaches to handling matters. I mean, if this person did not stop at the checkpoint, you do not have the right to kill her. The best you can do is probably to capture the picture of the plate number, and you go to the registration officials. Agencies can interrelate to implement laws and trace, like it's done abroad. Even though globally we have police brutality, I can also say this, that we have very refined and wonderful police officers, but the mandate is on the police force to ensure that the public relations reputational gap is breached, because the mantra is that police is the friend of the people.
All right.
That should manifest the way they exercise their authority.
I'd like to touch on something, the abolition of death penalty, and that's of course because you did mention that since 2020 we've had only 2 governors that have signed the death penalty because a number of them don't want the blood on their hands. So we have a number, I mean, I did mention earlier that we have over 3,000 people on death row according to Amnesty International. There have been global calls. United Nations experts have called for the abolition of the death penalty, and they've been asking that these be made complete and final around the world. We've seen some advancements in states like, I think in countries like Ghana and I think Zambia, I'm not quite sure now, that have abolished death penalty through legislative leadership. Do you see that this is a movement that will hold water, or an advocacy that would be able to hold water in Nigeria, especially because, like you said, a number of these governors don't want blood on their hands?
I did the research on that, and globally, Nigeria is one of the few countries that still embrace capital punishments. Many nations are moving away from it, considering fundamental human rights. And the big question is that, has death penalty, capital punishment, has it been able to help the society from curtailing this crime? And the answer may be no. I had the privilege of reviewing the kidnapping prohibition law of Lagos State 2017 during the tenure of Governor Ambode. And I raised an issue. You see, these kidnappers are not scared about death penalty. I recall when you talk about this capital punishment for some offenses, for instance, maybe armed robbery, it came up as early as the 70s, early 70s. Have we stopped armed robbery?
No.
Crime is a human issue, and there are other factors that can help you curtail crime. You can go and study the template in Norway, the template in Sweden, the template in Switzerland, the template in China, Japan, as other countries where they have been able to, minimize crime. There is hardly a society you can find that is free of crime, but you can reduce crime. And that is what we should be focusing on. It's just like when you are applying palliative measures to substantial issues. So how can we have a society where people can be friendly, where people can be contented, and know that they are rendering service to the citizens, and know that the authority they have should be for their selfish purposes, and if you don't dance their tunes, they wipe you off. So we should go to the macro level. How can we have a society that the economy is vibrant? If you see some of the countries I have mentioned, there are countries that are doing very well. You talk about Singapore and some other countries like that. So how can we lift up our nation? You cannot have a nation where about 133 million citizens are within the poverty window, multifaceted for that matter, and you want that society to be secure. No. It should be a difficult task. So we still have a long way to go beyond all these penalties. Like I said, in year 2020 alone, 3 years ago, at least 58 death sentences were pronounced in Nigeria. And this is a country that has 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. So if these penalties can help us, by now we should not be talking about kidnapping, killings, and different kinds of. And the case of Bolanle came up because, she was a prominent citizen. And what about many other cases, extrajudicial killings and things like that? So I want to say that the basic assignment of the government, when you talk about security and welfare, you can see that they are symbiotic, they are tied together. Where you have commendable welfare attention given to the citizens, it will help you deal with crime. But when you don't have a commendable welfare attention to your citizens, then you may be wondering how an eagle will fly with just one wing. The eagle needs 2 wings to fly. And so we have the wing of security and welfare. And if you ignore welfare, you're not likely to secure the land. So these are issues of our time. These are issues of
We do hope that it's not
Number one.
just one of those conversations that we never hear about. We hope that this sort of sets the standard and in a way deters further policemen from enforcing brutality on civilians. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we do hope that the family of Omobolanle Raheem can find some measure of peace. Nothing will ever be good enough because, I mean, it's not bringing her back. But I hope that they can find some measure of peace. Thank you for your time with us this morning.
Absolutely. My condolences once again to the family, to the nation Nigeria. And we pray that by the special grace of God and the act of man, that will make this nation better and allow God to restore his glory upon the land. God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time
you.
with us.
Thank you for joining us.
All right.